Hey, it's Soul with some midnight coverage, and today we're doing a little alpha preview of Professions at Midnight, although try as I might, I couldn't find cooking or fishing trainers yet as of this current build. The intent is to just give an idea of how Professions are going to feel so far with major changes. This isn't a close look at any of the professions because, well, it's not really worth our time getting into right now, but we will definitely do a round of deep dives and closer looks as we get into the beta and closer to the launch as we get real numbers. Use the navigation to get to where you want to go, and if you could, like this video, subscribe for more WoW coverage, and catch me where I'm live. Let's start with what's going to be your workstation over in Quell the Loss. There are actually two areas where professions can be handled, one area in the Old City, which is exclusive to Horde players, and the area shared by everyone, which we'll focus on in this section. Unlike Dornagol or even Valdrakken, the profession working space is actually pretty dense. Within this space here are all the trainers and suppliers, the Artisans Consortium, and the management of crafting orders. Now, not to say that it's like sparse or boring or limited, behind the convenience of the NPCs and the crafting tables outside are dedicated spaces to professions for the chill vibes. There are a few significant game-wide changes to professions. Material ranks have been reduced from 3 down to 2, so we're gonna have the good herbs, the Orin skins, and then there's the literal trash. I'm just kidding. The third wheel of rank 1 materials was more than a bit awkward, and with this change we ought to see a healthy divide between quality, as people will use the lower quality goods for easy crafts or concentration crafting, which I'll talk about in the future, while higher quality goods are used for mass crafting and crafting orders. Crafted gear is also expected to have a reduction in ranks, from 5 ranks down to 3, although this isn't fully reflected in the alpha just yet. We'll probably have to wait for a later phase when epic crafting is testable, and test vendors are available for us to try out crafts and easily level up. Again, today we're just scratching the surface with major changes. It's not implemented in every profession, but it's expected all of them can make a round of midnight decor, with a greater number of recipes than what's offered from the older expansions. The recipes I'm seeing so far don't require wood like other expansion eras, but we'll see how this develops. Unfortunately, as of this build, crafting orders for decor, they still don't seem to be a thing. I imagine decor is trying to position itself as a sort of evergreen income, but with so many kinds of recipes and a very subjective demand for decor, I think we should really make some noise about maybe having decor be something players can order on demand. Crafting and hoping it sells tends to be a race to the bottom, and housing decor beyond trying to buy up materials early, it's an untested market, but we'll revisit this in the future. The practice of profession shuffling is dead. This is a method where players would take a character and learn one profession after another for the purpose of acquiring a bunch of resources to buy up recipes faster than a normal character who might just hold on to the same professions over time. For Midnight, there's a resource specific for each profession, earned from crafting and used to buy recipes, make profession tools, and perform recrafts. From the looks of it, this isn't a warband currency and cannot be traded. Now, while it might be good to no longer see certain folks game the system for an advantage, there is a consequence I sort of foresee. Left as is, I'm wondering how is it we can get profession tools crafted, because it seems like we'll always have to find another crafter who happens to have the available resources that I wouldn't be able to acquire myself. Tool recipes don't ask for these resources, but when mousing over the tooltip, it does say that they're used for crafting tools. Now, this is just me speaking on what I'm seeing right now. It's a long way until launch, and there are a number of ways to solve this without us losing our minds. Alright, so let's do a quick run through of the professions. Remember again, this is alpha and almost everything's going to change before going live, hence why I'm only giving these, some really brief takes. I mentioned earlier that I couldn't test fishing yet, but otherwise gathering professions don't seem to have changed much at all. The motions are basically the same, with the stats, the specializations into mounted herbing and mining, and the return of traps for very rare materials. There are 5 general herbs and 3 general ores with the usual rare material to discover. Now, one funny thing that's, I don't know if this is an alpha bug or not, the herbs and ore nodes, they're exceptionally large, not that I mind it. Something to point out though, there are new elemental materials found in herbs, ore, and skins when the skinner uses a specific item on skinnable mobs. These moats, as they're called, can very likely be target farmed by venturing into areas where the element is most prevalent. For example, not really a spoiler alert, but there are voidy areas in Zulamat, and the herb and ore nodes, they might be afflicted with an elemental trait called Voidbound. So we may expect a gathering behavior not so different from Dragonflight, where we'll be seeking out certain biomes in zones where some zones might lean further in one direction than another. Unlike Dragonflight though, we're dealing with whole items as opposed to throwing together 10 of a smaller item to make a big one. Let's move on to all the armor crafting, as in tailoring, blacksmithing, and leatherworking. Like I said, we're going to move along pretty fast, where once again we're in very familiar territory. I won't get into details on crafting profession gear, that hasn't really changed, or the embellished gear other than to say, hey, embellished gear is coming back again, but I'll do my best to point out some differences. At the moment, I can't tell if you have to be a tailor in order to collect cloth again. I mean, I don't even know what the difference was really, now that we can look back on it, but there is a gathering spec that makes you a better cloth farmer either in the Eastern Kingdom zones or the Rootlands and Voidland zones. But ultimately you're going to want both anyway because it happens to contribute to overall skill. But it is kind of interesting, and once again they can specialize for two certain cloths. In this case it's between Arcana Weave and Sunfire Cloth. I failed to get into the leatherworking specialization, and there isn't anything super special going on in blacksmithing right now, but an ever-burning forge-like buff from The War Within, that's not coming back. It looks like crafting is just going to be a bit more straightforward. Engineering gets to be a little bit interesting as usual. They have this ability called recycling, and it seems to take reagents from all sorts of professions from Midnight, and it recycles it into usable materials for the engineer. I think part of the intent is to put a price floor on unwanted or low quality materials over time, sort of like what thaumaturgy does for the War Within market, only recycling items seems to be something that's more useful well into Midnight. The immediate drawback I see though is that recycling is also used to learn recipes, meaning engineers will have to acquire these materials early on anyway, possibly paying some crazy inflated prices. They can create, at least for themselves and their warband, a warbound crafting spark. It seems like this is a way to help quickly gear up alts with this spark that probably doesn't have the same potential as a regular spark, but this seems pretty cool. They're also back to making enchants for ranged weapons, but as of right now at least, they don't have any ranged weapon recipes. They can make what are called bots for their crafted helmets, wrists, and something new, their feet. It can go either way, but this might be a net nerf for engineers because ranged weapons were at least a reliable market. Engineering wrists and now boots, they're going to compete with current drops as well as other crafted gear where people might want to use those slots for embellishments. They're also getting a nerf to their capability at crafting tools because now there's a whole ass tree for us to specialize in each and every type of tool we can make, making the process of tool mastery longer by like months. Inscription is the profession that took ranged weapons away from engineering, and now they can make bows. It also kind of looks like they're doing something a little bit different with sigils, like, well, for one, they exist, but this time instead of relying on another embellishment, it looks like crafted trinkets are also coming back, and we can stack the sigil and the trinket effect for, well, a more powerful effect. It's pretty daring, considering how twitchy people can get when deciding which trinkets to use. Under Jewelcrafting, nothing stood out other than that I don't see an item that lets us add sockets. It might come later, but it might be a nerf. Otherwise, it's the usual round of gems and embellishments which may or may not be useful after tuning. Enchanting is a bit more interesting, but also not. Bracer and cloak enchants are being moved over to the head and the shoulders instead, no idea why. Alchemy appears to have improved by moving away from specializing on herbs, which was kind of confusing for players. The trade-off though, specializations for potions or flasks is a lot deeper, so you'll find yourself speccing deep into one tree before speccing into the other. There's a bit more customization though, because you'll be deciding on schools of consumables, as in Light versus Void or Sindori versus Haranir. Thaumaturgy is gone, although probably for a good reason, being that there's only going to be 2 ranks of materials now, which also means transmutation returns to prominence, and this could mean a good opportunity for transmute factories once again. That's about everything we can look at right now. There's one small concern that I want to point out that I've only touched on until now. There is quite a bit of competition for gearing in Midnight. There's whatever's going to drop from raids or dungeons or delves. With crafting, there's once again quite a few embellishments to choose from. The Alchemy trinket seems to be making a comeback. Inscription trinkets are trying to make a comeback and can be combined with sigil embellishments. And engineers can make bracers and now boots with non-embellishments that may or may not be competitive too. Options are always cool, but when we can mostly freely choose among these options, it can get confusing, and it potentially feels bad once that best in slot is chosen by the community, and then every other option is dead in the water for probably the rest of the expansion. I don't know what the solve is for that, but I just wanted to get that thought out there. That's going to be it for now, and I'll definitely be revisiting professions a few more times before we get into the big meaty guides to help you along whether you want to sell in the market or stick to the auction house. Please like this video, subscribe for more WoW coverage, catch me live, and I'll catch you later. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.